Good afternoon. This is the midday news on 3FM 92.7 coming to you from our studios here in Adesawe, Kanda, Accra. Coming up this afternoon, government cautions against the politicization of the Boko chieftaincy conflict as it assures swift measures are being taken to address the security situation in the country. Also this afternoon, students and guardians begin trooping into GES designated regional solution centers to rectify anomalies with a computerized school placement system for the 2024-2025 academic year. And later on, we tell you why the Universities Association of Ghana, UTAG, has announced an immediate suspension of its nationwide strike against illegal mining, otherwise known as Kalamse. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. My name is Hammoah, Agyemang. Many thanks for joining us. The bulletin starts right here, right now. The Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah, has expressed concern over the ongoing misrepresentation and politicization of the Boko conflict by various factions, warning that such actions threaten to further inflame tensions. He bemoaned the attempts to distort the government efforts, which he said are firmly guided by the goal of restoring law, order and peace. Asamoah urged all parties to avoid actions that could deepen mistrust, reassuring factions that the government remains impartial and committed to safeguarding life and property. He called on both sides not to lose trust in the government's approach to restoring stability in Boko. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan has been sitting through that press conference and joins us for a conversation. Crosby, what more can you report on this very important emergency meeting?
Right, so the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Minister, Stephen Asamoah, has been engaged in the media, and essentially what he's been saying is that concerns over the Boko Chieftaincy crisis and resolving it has been a priority for the government. It has been a priority of the Nando-led government since its inception, and they have indeed worked at ensuring that peace remains in Boko. It is, however, unfortunate that in the past week, peace seems to have eluded residents in Boko, and the peace has been disrupted recently. And he's saying the government is guided by its responsibility to protect life and property, but most importantly, to enforce law and order to restore normalcy as quickly as possible. Again, one key thing he highlighted was that they have taken notice of misrepresentation that have been actions over the ongoing dispute. He says that these misrepresentations seek to inflame the factions and escalate the situation. And government has also taken notice of certain levels of mistrust that has crept in since last week when the conflict resurfaced. But he's assuring them that they should still trust in him, the minister, as well as government, that they'll do all it takes to ensure peace returns to Boko and its surrounding communities. Government will keep acting with impartiality in the same manner and build and maintain the peace in Boko. Essentially, he's employing all sides to stop the conspiracy theories going around and blame things that are being thrown here and there. Politicization of the matter and all of that. He's saying that it is not helping to restore peace to the area. He's calling for calm to allow governments to deal with the situation. No one should play politics with the matter. He's also calling on traditional leaders from both sides to refrain from any acts that will escalate the situation, calling on all sides to cease firing at each other and encouraging people to reach out, being your neighbor's keeper, essentially.
Right, Crosby, we know there's curfew in the area, but has the minister also been talking about any other measures to ensure and enforce security?
It's the curfew that is imposed that he's been reacting to. He says it is unfortunate that he has to get to this level. However, he's not certain when the curfew will be removed, if you like. But the state will do all it can to ensure that peace returns to Boko. Going into the 2024 elections, it will not be proper for residents there to be voting when there's a curfew. Will affect their regular lives.
All right.
In a huge number of ways, Grace.
Crosby, thank you for that update. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan updating us on that press conference by the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Still staying on this, it follows the imposition of a 66 curfew on the Troubled Town following renewed tensions and clashes which have spread across part of the Upper East and North regions from the weekend. More than 8 lives have been lost with several others injured amid heightened security presence and tension. The government, in announcing the curfew, pinned the recent disturbance on the arrival of a rival chief into the Boko township. Let's quickly cross over to our East regional correspondent Castro Senyala for more updates on this. Castro, thank you for joining us. If you can hear me, what is the level of compliance regarding the imposition of this curfew and how it is impacting on the daily activities of residents?
Yeah, Grace, as for the issue of curfews, it's nothing new to the Boko people. They are used to curfews now, and so whenever curfews are announced, it becomes something that is very common to them. Yesterday, an imposition was made. In fact, a review of the existing hours was effected, and as I speak now, people are out and about doing their normal activities, except that by 6 o'clock in the evening, they are expected to go back in, and the compliance is very smooth. There hasn't been any challenge. People haven't flouted the new directives, and as I stated earlier on, it's something that is not new to them, and so they are going about the number of activities. And even before the curfew hours were reviewed, because of the volatile nature, whenever it's getting to dusk, the people naturally, run into their rooms and lock themselves up for fear of the unknown. And so, for that matter, when the curfew comes in, it becomes even less easy for them to comply, even for their own safety.
This should also mean that calm has been restored to the area as compared to previous days?
Yes, relatively calm is there as compared to 4 days ago, where it was very hot and everywhere was always under tensions. The tensions have gone down. People are beginning to come out of their rooms. A few shops are being opened, and business as usual is going on, except that the military and the police are still everywhere to ensure that nothing goes wrong this time around, considering the number of deaths that have been lost within the past few days.
All right, Castro, thank you for that update. My colleague Castro Senyala updating us on the new Boko curfew and how the level of compliance has been. Let us bring in security consultant Richard Komado now. Mr. Komado, good afternoon to you. You have done a lot of monitoring in this area or in these areas. Will you say the curfew will curtail the escalating tensions as we see now?
No, I think what curfew does is a short-term measure to ensure that security and safety is restored back to the place. Then you could lift the curfew. And so I'm expecting that after 2 days or 3 days or presumably a week, they should review the curfew and make the security adjustments in Boko. Other than that, in terms of security operations and security management, curfew has always been a short-term measure in times when crises are up and the security operations have managed not to be able to deal with the critical issues on the ground.
And the resurgence of the tensions in the area has been pinned on the return of the rival chief to the security, to the area. What does this mean to the security of the area? How did we miss this?
Now, I think we let ourselves down. That has also pointed to the fact that the lackadaisical attitude of those who have the power and authority to act right and appropriately, considering the insurgency of these cases and the sensitivities involved. We let ourselves down, and I think the blame needs to go to those with the power to act right, and they did not.
So, Commander, my final one to you: what should we be doing in these times to calm down tensions, to look for long-term solutions to the troubles of Boko?
I think we need to review the security management at Boko. We need to look at the approach again. This particular approach and this particular methodology has not happened. So if the immediate or the long-term effect is to bring serenity and some level of civil arrangement to this particular issue, I think we will need to change the approach and look at the methodologies we have used over all this year.
And we've gotten to the stage where the residents themselves are politicizing the issue and in fact have banned all NPP activities in the area. Is this the way to go?
But I think it's the politicians rather who have created this problem. And it is the ineptitude of politicians and political party leaders that have created this problem from day one. In recent years, it has been politicians and their actions and their activities that have increased the volumes or the numbers of deaths. And that level of attitude of politicians who think they know far better than everybody, it is what has led us to where we are, and we have not been able to resolve this particular issue, which is not beyond the reach of common sense approach in dealing with this Boko chieftaincy issue once and for all.
All right, Mr. Kumado, thank you for talking to us. Security analyst Richard Kumado there. Let's stay in the north because the Member of Parliament for the Damango constituency and Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu-Jinapor has hit hard on former President Mahama and the NDC for engaging in tribal politics in Gunjaland, addressing a charged crowd of the NPP supporters as claw in the Salaga South constituency of the Savannah region. The Damango lawmaker insists that the times of tribal politics are over and that politicians from Gunjaland should stop engaging in tribal politics. He maintained that the NPP is the only political party that can develop Gunjaland. Let's speak to Christopher Mako on this. Chris, it appears Salaga South constituency has become a battleground for both the NPP and the NDC. Tell us what is accounting for this.
Yes, so Grace, you remember that just 2 weeks ago, the former president and NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, was in the Savannah region as part of his tour of the country. And so he visited the Salaga South constituency as well as Kro, which also falls in the constituency. In fact, it's a deprived area in the Salaga South constituency. And when the former president got there, his message was that they are the same people, they are all Gonjas, and so since he's a Gonja and contesting for that election, he should be given an opportunity to come back again to reset the country. And this is what Abu-Jinapor is responding to, that the Savannah region was first of all created by someone from Chebi, that is Akufo-Addo, who is the president of the country. And so he believes that it's not only someone who is related to you that can help you develop, but someone who has the development of the area at heart. And this whole argument comes up because, you know, in the 2020 elections, Salaga South was the only constituency that belonged to the MPP before the 2020 elections. But unfortunately, the party lost the seat in 2020. So the MPP is doing all that it takes to win back the Salaga South constituency, and the NDC is also trying to protect the seat. And so it's become a constituency that everybody is interested in the Savannah region.
All right, Christopher, let's listen to Samuel Abu-Jinapor on this.
Let nobody come and tell us that we should vote for anybody because of ethnicity, because of tribe. The times of tribal politics are over. This is a time of progress, of forward march, of development. That is the era we are in today. We are voting for the party that has created a region for us. We are voting for the party that has built our roads. We are voting for the party that has built more hospitals for Savannah region. We are voting for the party that has built more schools for Savannah region, promoted agriculture, brought about jobs, and that party is a new patriotic party.
Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Samuel Abu-Jinapor there. Christopher, thank you for bringing us that update. Christopher Makun, my colleague there. Let's just listen to the Chieftaincy Minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng on the Boko issue.
The numbers of deaths record from our sources puts at 16. That's official. When conflict starts in some areas, it's difficult to sometimes pick it up until later people go in there. But officially 16. But it's one too many. So indeed, that is the reason why the Security Council was imposed. So we need to arrest the situation very quickly. In terms of how the private chief ended up in Boko, I'll leave that to security agencies to answer that. It's unfortunate he did, something that we have to find answers to, and also to try and deal with it, because its very presence is creating the problems. And indeed, as you read from the statement yesterday, it's causing a lot of unrest and unease and tension. So let's, as I said, leave that to security agencies. But from the role of the key personalities who are helping to resolve, indeed, you recall that the government has requested Otumfuo de Asantene to take so.
That was the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng. Let's talk about something rather solemn this afternoon. And the Electoral Commission is expected to decide its next steps following the death of Ghana Freedom Party founder and presidential candidate Akua Donkor. A meeting to take this decision will take place once the party notifies the EC about the death. Madam Akua Donkor died last night, sparking concerns about the potential impact on the polls. My colleague Joseph Akable is with me in the studio for a chat. Blay, first take us through a look at her background.
Well, so as you indicated, founder, leader, flag-bearing presidential candidate of the Ghana Freedom Party. In terms of the upcoming election, when the balloting was done, she's supposed to be number 3. She had previously tried to contest the 2012 election and the 2016. First in 2012, she wanted to contest as an independent candidate, but she did not qualify to participate. Then in 2016, she tried with a political party. The party was not allowed to contest, but in 2020 she managed to get onto the ballot for the first time, and interestingly she placed 5th out of 12 candidates, getting 5,330 votes, represented by 0.04%, and so that is how she performed in terms of her politics so far.
What does the law say in such a situation, or in the demise of a presidential candidate?
Well, 2 things to look out for. First is the Constitution and what it provides, and the second being the Electoral Commission's constitutional instrument that regulates public elections. So for the Constitution, it says at Article 50, Clause 4, that where are the close of nominations, but before the election, one of the candidates dies, a further period of 10 days shall be allowed for nominations. And where the death occurs at any time within 25 days before the election in that constituency or unit shall be postponed for 21 days. And so in relation to the presidential election, we know that the death has taken place now, and so it's after the close of nominations. And so ordinarily the expectation would be that the nomination should be open for a further 10 days. But the Electoral Commission's regulations give some further directions, and it says at Regulation 13, Sub-Regulation 4 of CI 127, it's titled Contested Election and Death of Candidates. It says, where are the close of nominations, but before the election, one of the candidates dies, a further period of 10 days shall be allowed for nominations. But in all of this, the decision has to be taken by Electoral Commission depending on what communication comes from the party and the family, because the issue remains, what the party wants to replace the candidate, and if they don't want to replace the candidate, do they keep the numbers the same and blanket out, or the other political parties agree, or they also want reballoting? Because when the EC was doing the balloting, they did it for the political parties first, and they added on the independent candidate. And so all the other parties would also want to get a better position than where they are currently, and so that could also engage in a lot of conversation, not forgetting that the political parties have also been campaigning with these number 1,
numbers.
Number 8, they've printed posters, banners, they've had billboards across the country. Some have composed songs, all adding up to their campaign. So it's a whole lot of decision making that the EC has to be taken. But we've checked with the EC, and they are saying that first they are waiting to receive the notification from the party and the family, then they'll have a meeting to decide what step to take.
All right, Blay, we'll definitely keep our listeners updated on what comes out of this. Joseph Akable, my colleague, bringing us up to speed on the death of Akua Donkor and what it means for the upcoming election. Well, Akua Donkor will forever be remembered for a sense of humor in Ghana's almost tense political landscape. Let's listen to some of her funny soundbites.
Through the blind tray of a palace. I don't know what of Ghana. So help me God. Oh, him by a child, what's up with anymore? Why that baby and fast hand? I am a American and I don't know if someone travel or don't have a anymore.
Well, her second daughter, 53-year-old Ekia Lydia, who spoke to us in their family house at Edgeretia in the Ashanti region, says she is in disbelief of her mother's death.
Nipa yale anu onyale na wo me se me ma me yale me fro ka akwa akohwe no onyale ntini wo no aya me nwanwa kakra.
Right, so you had 53-year-old daughter of Ekia Donko saying she is in disbelief of her mother's death. Let's move away from that, but we wish the family well and may her soul rest in perfect peace. Ghanaians surely will forever miss her. But to other stories now, some students with their guardians have started trickling into the Ghana Education Service designated Western Regional Solution Center to try to rectify challenges with their school placement. The Ministry of Education has released a 2024-25 placement results for senior high schools and technical and vocational educational and training institutions with its attendant challenges. My colleague Irama Smith joins us from Secondary with how this is faring. Irama, early days yet, though not so early, considering the short time at their disposal. Paint for us a picture at where you are.
Currently at the Western Regional Office of the Ghana Education Service, specifically designated Solution Center by the GES to help sort out the challenges of the placement of BEC graduates who are trying to secure admission to the SHS. It's very early and there are just a few people here, but basically what they are all talking about is a change of school for their wards. All those that have interacted with their wards got good grades, they got their first choice of schools, but some are saying that they've realized that the schools are too far. It's only one person who says the ward missed the code, so that instead of picking, for instance, GSTS in Takrady, the ward has been placed at Ganas in the eastern region. So she wants to try to see if this can be changed for her. But this is very early. I mean, today is a Thursday. It's barely 10 a.m. So I believe that as the time goes on, we see more and more parents coming here with their wards to see what can be done to address their challenges.
Irama, thank you for that update. We'll connect with our reporters in the other regions and subsequently paint a picture for you on how it is looking. We can now speak to Kofi Asare, who is Executive Director of the Africa Education Work. Mr. Asare, thank you for joining us. What would you say is your initial reaction to the late release of this list? Students are expected to be in school tomorrow, and we received the list last night or early this morning.
I think, good afternoon to your audience. I think it's been challenging. I would have expected that the placement was announced earlier. But unfortunately, there are real issues we acknowledge. The late release of BC results obviously would have meant that the placement process would also move forward. And giving plans efforts for the GES to try and then make amends and then make some progress in the resetting of the academic calendar. It always meant that parents were going to be ready for a very short time to prepare. Having said that, I appreciate that. For senior high schools last week. And we've moved from the era of school-based prospectus to an era of national prospectus where the GES at the national level approach prospectus publishes same. The parents are able to, on the basis of GES prospectus published, to purchase items that they need for their even ahead of placement. Even the placement to buy the items that the GES secretaries are determined. So I would expect that we take advantage of these initiatives so that we don't always wait for the school before we start preparing. I also note that academic activity will start on the 7th of November, even though tomorrow is a important day.
Yeah.
And so I will urge parents to manage the constraints of time. It is a collective process between parents, the GES, the YS, the Ministry of Education, and all involved. Bear in mind that because Ghana closed its education system for some time during the COVID period, unlike other countries, after COVID, our academic calendar has shifted to start in April in 2021. We moved backwards to January and then to December last year. Now we are into October. Hopefully next year.
Because of the limited time. So you are making the case that GES, the schools and the parents should be able to come together and fine-tune the calendar so that the student do not miss out, though we are almost running behind the calendar. All right. Thank you so much for talking to us. Kofi Asare, ex-executive director of the Africa Education Ward. Still with education, though, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has called off a strike against illegal mining activities in the country with immediate effect. UTAG, its services on October 10 in protest to the government in action against the ongoing galamsey, which is causing destruction to water bodies and forest cover. In a statement, the association said its fight against illegal mining remained on course. However, after considering the rippling effect of their action against students, despite the cause being advanced in the interest of society, leadership called for a vote to reconsider the decision. Let's speak to National President of UTAG, Professor Mamudu Akudugu. Prof, thank you for your time this afternoon. Your statement speaks about the adoption of alternative legal avenues to address the galamsey menace. What exactly are you looking at?
Good afternoon to you and to your listeners. Yes, there are different options that are available to us within the confines of the Constitution, including demonstrations, advocacy, court actions if need be, and all the rest of it. So all the range of options available are on the table.
And you intend engaging government on the measures rolled out to address this menace?
We are always committed to doing that because we believe that it's a collective action that will bring about the end to this fight. And so we are ready to engage government, and because of that, we drafted the pact or the fight against galamsey, which will be approaching all the flag bearers of the 2024 presidential elections to commit to continuing the fight when they get the mandate of Ghanaian people come 7th December 2024.
All right, Prof. Thank you for speaking to us. Professor Mamudu Akudugu is the National President of UTAG. Before we go, Speaker of Parliament Alban Gbagbin is urging Supreme Court to set aside its orders which stopped his declaration of 4 seats vacant from taking effect. As you may recall, the Supreme Court in October 18 stopped Parliament from enforcing the Speaker's ruling that said the set seats are vacant by virtue of its occupant opting to contest the 2024 polls as independent candidate. Documents filed by the Speaker's lawyers say the court does not have the power to stay execution of a ruling of the Speaker of Parliament. He also accuses leader of the NPP caucus, Alexander Penyoma, of making fraudulent misrepresentation to convince the court to rule in his favor. The Supreme Court will hear this matter tomorrow, Wednesday, October 30. Meanwhile, renowned lawyer Chachu Chikata says the recent happenings are setting the wrong examples. Speaking with Beatrice Edu on Agenda on TV3, he mentioned that consensus building should be key.
We have to worry about bad examples being set, because when bad examples are set, it may be done one day seemingly in a manner that favors one party, but another day that bad example will be used again to favor the other party. So in my mind, if we don't acknowledge that there is a bad example which we really cannot defend and so on, then we have a problem.
Renowned lawyer Chachu Chikata there. That is it for our package for this afternoon's bulletin on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Many thanks for joining us. Log on to 3news.com for some more stories. Also make date with us at 5 p.m. for the hottest 1 hour 30 minutes on radio on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Up next is the business update with Manu Afful. Good afternoon.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, the Institute of Energy Security warns of renewed threat of power crisis as 560 megawatts Sunon Asogli power plant shuts down amid debt dispute. We'll bring you details of that. Also, Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research (ISE) projects 4.5% growth for Ghana, surpassing IMF's revised 2024 target. We'll hear from Director of the Institute, Professor Peter Korte.
The IMF have revised the expectations and said we'll grow by 4%. I am cautiously optimistic that we can do maybe 4.5%, given that our quarter 1, quarter 2, 2024 growth rates are higher.
My name is Manu Afful. We'll bring you details of these and more shortly. Please stay. Now let's get into the details. Ghana faces renewed threat of power crisis as 560 megawatts Sunon Asogli power plant shuts down amid debt disputes, according to the Institute of Energy Security. In a press release, the institute warned, in case you're experiencing a low-key doomsaw, be prepared to see an extended version of same due to government's reluctance to act decisively on the root cause, unquote. The following news desk report has details. According to the Institute of Energy Security, a new wave of potential extended intermittent power outages reminiscent of the infamous doomsaw looms over the country following the recent shutdown of the 560 megawatt Sunon Asogli power plant, which reliably supplies about 12 to 15% of the nation's electricity. The absence of the plant from the national grid is already evident. Sunon Asogli, one of Ghana's largest power producers, suspended operations 2 weeks ago, citing prolonged delays in payment of $259 million for electricity supplied. According to owners of the plant, a significant capital injection is required to service its operational debts and resume normal production. Reports indicate that, despite calls from the Ghana Grid Company Limited, GridCo, to restore operations and alleviate the growing pressure on the national grid, Sunon Asogli has remained steadfast, pointing at its lack of operational fund. Ghana risks a scenario where load shedding becomes a necessary measure, particularly if demand continues to exceed supply. Ghana's economy may face significant setbacks, especially as power shortages disrupt productivity, increase operational costs, and dissuade investment. Prolonged outages could also negatively impact sectors like healthcare, education, and small and medium-sized enterprises, which are heavily reliant on consistent power to function effectively. In the short term, government's intervention may be required to help alleviate Sunon Asogli's financial challenges, possibly through bridging loans to facilitate the plant's return to operation. That was a 3 Business News Desk report on the threat of power crisis Ghana is set to face following the shutdown of the 560 megawatt Sunu and Asogli power plant. In more stories, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, has projected a stronger growth rate for Ghana's economy this year. Speaking at the launch of the State of Ghana's Economy 2023 report and the review of 2024 third quarter economic performance, Director of the Institute, Professor Peter Korte, stated that the economy could grow by 4.5%, surpassing the International Monetary Fund's revised target of 4%. This projection, he said, is based on improved growth figures from the first and second quarters.
One key thing that came out strongly is that our growth prospects remain positive, with our GDP growth expected to average around 4 to 4.5. The IMF have revised the expectations and said we'll grow by 4%. I am cautiously optimistic that we can do maybe 4.5%, given that our quarter 1, quarter 2, 2024 growth rates are higher, and usually in the third and last quarter, we tend to grow a bit, all things being equal, grow a bit, faster than before. And we need to invest in such sectors such as agriculture and industry. These are 2 labor-intensive industries, agriculture and manufacturing especially. They are labor-intensive sectors that when we invest and they grow, then we get, we're able to redistribute, we're able to create jobs. It's just like rain. If it doesn't rain where you live or where your farm is, your crops will not do well.
Meanwhile, the ISE Director, Professor Peter Korte, has also welcomed plans by the Ministry of Finance to review government's debt ceiling under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. He is optimistic this will go a long way to avert future debt exchange programs.
I want this government not to overspend within the 2024 election period, and this can be achieved by reviewing the Fiscal Responsibility Law, legislation debt ceiling. I think the Minister of Finance said they want something they are presenting to Parliament. Unfortunately, we don't have a Parliament. We've gone on a long recess. But hopefully, if they come back and we legislate debt ceiling, that will help us not to borrow beyond threshold and go through debt exchange again in the future. Expenditure rationalization is very key in terms of procurement, compensation. So we don't just raise revenue, but we also spend wisely. And one way to do this is to get all MMDAs on the gift-made system. Because sometimes they spend something that they haven't even budgeted for. They sign contracts, and by the time you realize your expenditure is gone beyond the target.
That was the Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Korte there. Away from that, convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe, has warned that the ongoing Galamsey activities could lead to future restrictions on Ghana's cocoa exports if not checked. He expressed these concerns, highlighting the significant negative impact of Galamsey on the Ghanaian economy.
The Africa Water Week serves as a high-level political platform where governments, regional institutions, international partners, the private sector, civil society and media from across the continent convene to address water and sanitation challenges. In a commemoration press engagement, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe stressed the future impact of the Galamsey menace on Ghana's cocoa exports.
Even our cocoa that is supposed to be premium globally, we're beginning to target in such a way that it would be at risk. And we know that the Chinese are a major factor when it comes to this. The Chinese have started producing cocoa. So they are coming here and working together with us and destroying our cocoa whilst they are producing, the cocoa.
He further advocated for alternative economic uses of Ghana's land and water resources.
If you take an acre of land and you farm avocados on it, within the next 4 years, you will start harvesting and earning between $5,000 to $7,000 a year for the next 30 to 50 years. If you take coconut, for example, coconut after the 3rd, 4th year will start giving you $2,500. Then when you take that same acre of land and you do galamsey on it, you get $6,000. After the $6,000, that land is gone.
The press engagement was organized by Revenue Mobilization Africa, a member of the Tax Justice Network Africa, and a host of the Water Citizens Network campaign in Ghana.
That was a report on Media Coalition Against Galamsey, warning that the ongoing illegal mining activities could lead to future restrictions on Ghana's cocoa exports. Well, that will be all for Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Manu. Afful, stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs.